Okay, I wrote this weird essay over the past couple weeks, periodically working on it here and there, and it's called What Do We Want to Become? And first and foremost, I'm going to explain why I wrote this thing because every time I write an essay and ask people to read it, the first question they ask when they get done is, Tony, why did you write this essay? Right? As if I need a reason. So I'm gonna just give you a reason right now, and then you won't have to worry about it while I'm reading it to you. So we can just get this out of the way. So over the past year or so, I've met a whole bunch of new people, like a bunch of new friends and acquaintances, and it's dawned on me that a lot of y'all don't totally know what I'm all about. And I think that's because I find it difficult to fully illustrate what I'm all about on the fly in person. I have trouble explaining myself like in the moment to someone. So, this brief essay will give you a concise glimpse into my weird brain, hopefully illustrating the most pressing questions I grapple with on a moment to moment basis, in case you're interested in knowing about this. I enjoy writing not because I'm good at it, but because it gives me an outlet for my ponderings. Writing allows me to concretize a thought and present it to my peers. Writing is a simple therapy that allows me to organize my mind, and sometimes, just sometimes, I allow people a glimpse into this convoluted process, for better or worse. What do we want to become is meant to be taken literally. I don't mean this in a metaphorical New Age sense. I literally mean it's time to start thinking about what thing do we humans wish to become over the next couple centuries. We have arrived at a point in time where this question will have real and lasting implications, potentially for trillions of years. This question is to be taken verbatim. What do we want to become? This essay draws from the concept of accelerating change. That is, the perceived increase in the rate of technological change throughout history. We consumers have been introduced to accelerating change via the miraculous biennial doubling in computational power of smartphones, gaming systems, and PCs. I vividly recall unwrapping my brand new 16-bit Super Nintendo on the Christmas of 1992. Whatever happened to my old 8-bit Nintendo on that day is beyond me. A few years after that, I was opening a 64-bit PlayStation for Christmas. Fast forward to 2019, and we can hold in one hand the computational power of a supercomputer from the early 1990s. I am a child of accelerating change. As a well-trained consumer, I viscerally understand the link between time and technology's rate of change. Let's roll the clock back to the middle of the last century, when our parents and grandparents were young. Let's say it's Christmas 1955. What's under the tree? Some wooden blocks, a dress, a wagon, the usual. 10 years later, in 1965, what's under the tree? Wooden blocks, a dress, the same. Little changed from one year to the next in the lives of consumers until more recently. My generation was the first to come to expect groundbreaking technological developments on a well scheduled biennial basis. I expect the world to look much different in a year or two, and if it's not, something went terribly wrong. This is a new development in the evolution of minds and societies. It is this expectation of change, the waiting on the edge of our seat, that illustrates the concept of accelerating change. It is here, it is real, it is a part of who we are now. Thus far, we have reaped enormous benefits from accelerating change. Our ability to communicate and process information has never been better. It would seem we are on the fast track to answering all questions and solving all problems with our newfound computational superpowers. But are there any pitfalls here? If accelerating change continues unabated, what will the world look like in 10 or 20 years' time? What are the day to day implications for Joes like you and I? And how far will accelerating change ultimately take us? A good benchmark for these concerns is something called artificial general intelligence. That is, an artificial intelligence that is as smart as a person in all fields. The development of AGI is a point of no return. If it comes to pass, AGI could replace humans in most fields, potentially make major life decisions for us, and single handedly shape our futures. This sounds like sci fi, yes, But rewind the clock back to the mid 1990s and tell someone, in 20 years' time, you will hold the combined knowledge of all of humanity in the palm of one hand, with instant access to the mind of any human being in the developed world. And they would say, I literally don't understand what you're talking about right now. So if you'll excuse me, I'm going to get back to playing Mortal Kombat. Remember accelerating change. The difference between 2019 and 2039 will be exponentially greater than that of the 90s to the 2000 teens. For the moment, AGI is sci-fi, artificial general intelligence is sci-fi. But history seems to suggest that in a decade or so, it will be a looming reality. Most AI experts think AGI will emerge within the next 2 decades. About 40% think it will come to pass by 2028. As of 2018, the AI industry had an estimated value of 1.2 trillion, with a T, trillion dollars. When you have this many people spending this much money focusing on the same problem, miraculous things can happen, for better or worse. Oh yeah, what about flying cars? Back in the 60s, we all said we'd have flying cars by the year 2000, and I don't see any flying cars, partner. Oh, thank you for asking. I was just about to bring this up, actually. This is a fallacious argument baby boomers like to bring up whenever I discuss AI. Let me address this as it illustrates a salient point. We never had flying cars, ever. We've never even seen anything remotely like a flying car, and those stupid newfangled airplane cars don't count. Sorry. We do, on the other hand, have AI. We've had it for decades. It's already here. I cannot stress this point enough. We aren't talking about a new technological breakthrough. We're simply looking at the process of accelerating change and applying it to technologies already in existence, used by regular folks on a day-to-day basis. AI is not the future, it's the past, it's history, and it's here to stay. Okay, enough about artificial intelligence. Let's take a look at robots. Robots have been on the scene since the 1950s and stealing jobs since the 60s. Apparently, folks in the 1960s were too busy dreaming about flying cars to notice all their jobs being stolen by robots. Many economists and robotics experts predict half our jobs will be automated within a decade or two. Put another way, half the work currently done by Homo sapiens will be done by robots in the near future. Again, we are talking about technology already in existence, so keep the flying car comments to yourself. Once human-level AI is reached, most intellectual jobs, such as lawyers and professors, will also be automated. I find it hard to imagine a world where humans do work, any work at all, by the end of this century. If we don't destroy ourselves through our own haphazard technological developments, or nuclear war, we will be living in a completely different world by 2100. Our economics, our values, our bodies, and our minds will be very different in the not too distant future. I'm alarmed by how rapidly we are changing, and yet how nonchalant everyone remains. What? I don't give a fuck. I don't give a fuck. Notice I said our bodies and minds are changing as well. Again, this is not a metaphor. This is literal. Since the 1960s, people have been experimenting with brain-computer interface. That is, yoking nervous systems and computers into one body. A cyborg, essentially. The first cyborgs were recipients of cochlear ear implants. These are essentially microphones that transmit signals directly into the patient's brain. So, with this technology, people who have never heard sound before can now hear sound. Simple as that. Since then, we have developed some primitive but functional bionic eyes. And we've recently been experimenting with robotic prosthetic limbs that are controlled by the patient's mind and can even sense stimuli such as pressure and texture. So, we have bionic ears, eyes, and limbs that all link directly to the brain. This is what I mean when I say, what will we become? What will our bodies and minds look like? It's only a matter of time before these bionic technologies aren't only used to remedy disabilities, but also upgrade already healthy individuals. Why would the trillionaires of the future stick to their old, crumbling biological bodies when they could have the body of a Marvel comic book character? And what about our minds? There are companies starting to experiment with AI brain interface. The seemingly outlandish idea of a computer assisted intelligence upgrade may be decades around the corner. We live in a world where the lines between organic and inorganic are becoming blurry. How this does not strike more people as concerning is a real head scratcher. Remember accelerating change. I cannot overemphasize this point. Innovation grows exponentially, not linearly. Currently, cutting edge brain computer interface technologies will look like archaic garbage in a decade from now. And then what will we have on our hands? And will people still be missing this critical point of accelerating change? There are great thinkers who believe Homo sapiens have less than 200 years. That is, the species will be something else within 2 centuries. Most people reel in disbelief when I bring this point up. It only takes a minute or two of consideration to see how conservative this estimate really is. The year is currently 2019. Let's rewind the clock back 2 centuries and take a look to illustrate this point. Okay, here we are in 1819. Bicycles are still science fiction. The steam locomotive has just been invented and is still quite rare. Commercial antibiotics will remain unavailable for more than a century. Surgeries are conducted in lieu of anesthesia. The telegraph will be in use later this century, but for now, communication consists of letters and is reserved for the educated elite. The world of the early 1800s was more akin to the Stone Age than the world of today. Grab your average Joe off the street in 1819 and teleport them to the 2000s, and they would not be able to comprehend our day-to-day lives. We would seem more like space aliens than people to them. Now, keeping accelerating change in mind, what will the world look like in 200 years' time? 200 years from now? We wouldn't even understand it. The difference between 2019 and 2219 will far outweigh the changes we saw from the 1800s to the 2000s. The biological form of Homo sapiens is coming to a close. If we get through this bottleneck of risky technological innovation and avoid World War III, we will become something that this world has never seen, perhaps something this universe has never seen. We really will be more gods than humans. So, this brings me to my question. What do we want to become? Let's just step into the realm of plausible sci-fi for the moment. Let's assume that we humans have the potential to become anything we wish and create anything we want. What should we do? This question gnaws at my brain. What should we do? We may literally be on the brink of becoming masters of the universe. What should this look like? I am a nihilist. I do not believe in intrinsic value. In my mind, the only things that are truly of value are those that diminish suffering. And even these things are only of instrumental value, not intrinsic value. There is nothing in this universe that appears to be any more sacred or valuable than anything else. There is no cosmic plan or divine instruction manual telling us what to do. The universe, as far as we can tell, is a blank slate, waiting at our disposal. So, what do? We could keep marching down this path of godlike metamorphosis. Sure. I just want to point out one strange quandary that recently came to mind. There's no guarantee that gods are content. Let's say we do become gods and attain full mastery of this universe, and the ability to create new ones. Then what? I mean, seriously, wouldn't that get boring? Can you imagine how boring it would be to be able to do anything? You already know everything there is to know and can create anything, even new worlds. Wouldn't this get old? It actually sounds a little like an eternal hell. Killing yourself would be an almost incomprehensible act, given that you are now God and can live forever. You would be throwing away an eternity. But an eternity of what? It would be a real bitch to spend 14 billion years of cosmic evolution on becoming gods, just to realize it's actually kind of boring. Suddenly, hunting and gathering doesn't sound so bad after all. Honestly, think about all this. This might sound far fetched, but we literally are at a place in time where these questions may have real and lasting implications. Consider it. If you had the world by the reins, where would you steer things? What would you want to become?